The Arctic's frozen expanse is about to ignite in a battle of titans, the polar bear and the orca. One dominates the land and the other rules the seas. Both are evolutionary masterpieces, perfectly adapted to survive in this brutal environment. What happens, though, when these two apex predators collide? Will the polar bear's raw strength on land reign supreme, or will the orca's unmatched intelligence and deadly hunting skills take control of the waters? With that being said, here's what happens when an orca meets a hungry polar bear. An unexpected Arctic predator. In the icy wilderness of Svalbard, scientists set out to solve the mystery of harbor seal deaths. Instead, they stumbled upon a discovery so strange it left them scratching their heads. While investigating a mysterious surge in harbor seal deaths, and decided to dissect a Greenland shark, suspecting it might lead to some answers. However, what they found inside its stomach wasn't just shocking, it was unbelievable. It was a polar bear's jawbone. It was a surprising yet confusing find for the scientists. The thing is, polar bears, the apex predators of the Arctic, reign over the ice. A Greenland shark, on the other hand, is a silent, elusive giant of the ocean. The two worlds shouldn't have crossed paths, yet here was evidence that they had somehow crossed paths with each other. The team could not stop laughing, partly out of disbelief and partly because the find was rewriting what they thought they knew about Arctic predators. The big question loomed: how did the shark end up with a polar bear jawbone in its stomach? Did it somehow manage to bring down one of these powerful beasts, or had it scavenged a bear's remains? The scientists refused to believe that the shark could have easily attacked and devoured an entire polar bear. According to them, the polar bear had either drowned or been injured or weakened before the encounter. This just shows that the Arctic is a place where even super predators like polar bears can turn into prey. Now, aside from the ruthless polar bears, the Arctic is also home to yet another mighty predator, the orca. They're both rulers of their domains: polar bears, the undisputed kings of the ice, and orcas, the apex hunters of the sea. What happens, though, when their worlds collide? Safe to say, it's not your classic predator versus predator face-off. When fate or nature brings them together, it's usually over a feast too big to ignore. When they've been hungry for days, polar bears will not pass up a chance to gorge on an orca washed ashore. Who could blame them? A single adult orca, weighing up to 6 tons, is practically an all-you-can-eat buffet that can feed up to 20 hungry bears. Don't get it twisted, though. Polar bears aren't taking down live orcas, and orcas aren't exactly cruising the Arctic looking for bear snacks. The balance of power depends on where the meeting happens. On land, polar bears dominate. In the water, orcas are the undisputed champs. It's this divide that keeps these apex predators from actively hunting each other. Instead, their rare interactions are more about survival than rivalry. For a polar bear stumbling across an orca carcass, it's a jackpot. Rich meat packed with calories, a rare bounty in a harsh landscape. For orcas, though, the possibility of a bear showdown is slim. They're safe beneath the icy waves, where polar bears cannot follow. In the unforgiving Arctic, survival is everything and the rules. They're simple. Eat or be eaten. In the Arctic, survival is ruthless. No second chances, no room for mistakes. The stakes are sky high, and the apex predators, like polar bears, are driven by hunger and the brutal instinct to survive. If one of these predators gets in the right place at the right time, it's a savage showdown. In 2017, chaos erupted on Wrangel Island. A whale carcass washed ashore, and over 150 polar bears descended in an explosive frenzy, claws flashing, teeth flared. In a matter of minutes, as many as 230 polar bears, from massive males to tiny cubs, crowded the carcass, each one fighting to claim their share. The mothers huddled their cubs close, eyes darting, guarding them from the towering males that crushed everything in their path. Every bear knew the game: eat or starve. Unfortunately, the danger does not end there. The ocean, vast and merciless, holds predators of its own. When you hear killer whale, it might sound like the stuff of movie villains. However, in the ocean, Orcanus orca is far more than just a name. It's a warning. These predators are ruthless, and when they hunt, it's a high-risk, no-holds-barred affair. Historically, sailors watched in awe and fear as orcas teamed up to take down massive whales. Some even called them assassina balenas, whale killers. Their hunting skill was legendary, and the name stuck. Don't let the name fool you, though. These creatures aren't just ferocious killers. They're highly intelligent, strategic, and incredibly efficient. The name Orcanus, meaning of the kingdom of the dead, says it all. These are the apex predators of the sea, their every move calculated for survival. They isolate the weak, trap their prey, and strike with lightning speed. From creating waves to knock seals off the ice, to executing complex maneuvers to take down giant prey, these predators are a force to be reckoned with. In the ocean's unforgiving depths, the odds are simple: slay or be slain. In contrast, polar bears are lone predators, ruthless and in control of their icy kingdom. However, when food gets scarce, like a whale carcass washed ashore, they're surprisingly willing to share the spoils with rival polar bears. With global warming on the rise, they have no choice but to. Climate change is pushing polar bears to the edge. Rising temperatures have sparked a rapid meltdown in the Arctic, wiping out nearly a third of its sea ice in just 50 years. For polar bears, that means shrinking hunting grounds and fewer seals to catch. Survival becomes a race against time. Desperation drives innovation. Polar bears are learning to fish in rivers, borrowing tactics from their bear cousins. However, the ocean is changing too. Orcas, once kept at bay by the ice, are charging north, claiming waters once untouched. Now, the tension is unbearable. With scarce food and fierce competition, the Arctic is turning into a deadly battleground. Polar bears, weakened and hungry, could soon see orcas as prey. A vulnerable orca, stranded or weakened, becomes a tempting target for a starving polar bear. The confrontation is inevitable. Two of the Arctic's deadliest predators face off in a fight for survival, and only one will rule this new, shrinking world. Places like the Hudson Bay, with its icy grip and narrow exits, add a gruesome twist. Locked under ice from November to July, it's a no-go zone for orcas. However, when summer hits and the ice retreats, they rush in, lured by prey like narwhals, a feast that seems too good to resist. Then winter comes crashing in. The ice seals shut, and the bay becomes a death sentence. Orcas, unable to break through the thickening ice, are trapped.
The whales gathered round a hole in the ice that provided the pod with their only source of oxygen. The plight of the mammals drew hundreds of locals from the nearby northern Quebec village of Inukjuak to monitor their progress.
If they don't escape before the freeze, they're doomed, forced to cluster around the last remaining breathing holes. As the orcas fight for survival, polar bears are waiting, their sharp eyes trained on the chaos. These apex predators, relentless in their hunger, sense weakness. With the orcas unable to flee and the ice closing in, a rare opportunity arises. The tables could turn, polar bears could strike, moving in for a kill. It's a fact that in the Arctic's ruthless food chain, one species' tragedy often spells an opportunity for another. For polar bears, these breathing holes are a jackpot. Polar bears are notorious for turning icy traps into hunting grounds. In 2015, off the coast of Norway, sea ice was thinning, and a group of white-beaked dolphins found themselves trapped in a small patch of open water, surrounded by thick, unforgiving ice. With no way out, the dolphins were sitting ducks. As if things couldn't get worse, a herd of polar bears stormed into the area. The moment they spotted the dolphins, they sprang into action, racing toward them without a second's hesitation. Used to hunting seals, they spotted the trapped dolphins and wasted no time. In a flash, their sharp instincts kicked in. Closing in with stealthy precision, it was a sudden, brutal pivot, one predator seizing an opportunity to take down prey it had never targeted before. The bears, once ice kings of the seal hunt, now dominated the dolphins' watery prison. As the bears established control, the orcas, forced to adapt, began venturing deeper into the icy waters, taking greater risks in search of their next meal. Their bold move into the Arctic could easily backfire. If they're stranded by the freezing waters, polar bears will not hesitate to seize the opportunity. However, this isn't the first time polar bears have demonstrated their hunting brilliance. Since the 1980s, scientists have watched them target beluga whales in the Canadian Arctic, particularly the young calves near Somerset Island. At the end of the day, success comes down to patience and precision, waiting at the shore, striking when the time is right, and dragging their catch onto the ice. For a hungry polar bear, a beluga whale is the ultimate catch. Belugas, especially their vulnerable calves, are prime targets. Rich, nutrient-packed meals that can sustain a polar bear through the unforgiving Arctic cold. Now it's happening more often. As the ice shrinks and shifts, polar bears are forced to hunt new prey to survive, pushing them to take risks they never had before. Some experts believe belugas have always been on the menu. Early researchers just weren't there to witness it. However, now, with the Arctic warming and orcas pushing farther north, the game has changed. A hungry polar bear spotting a pod of orcas, especially with weak or injured members, will pounce without hesitation. As the ice melts and the Arctic landscape transforms, these two mighty predators are on a collision course, their paths crossing more often. If you think that's wild, this brutal footage of a polar bear hunting down and devouring a reindeer in 2021 will make you think otherwise. The lone and weak reindeer trailing across Norway's Svalbard archipelago is an easy target. The polar bear, driven by hunger and the shrinking seal population, spots its prey. This is a rare chance, and the bear is not about to let it slip away. With deadly precision, the bear begins its pursuit. The reindeer moves unaware, but as soon as it sees the predator, panic sets in. It bolts for the water, a desperate attempt to escape. The bear is quick to respond, charging after it with shocking speed. It clocks 25 miles per hour on land and 6 in the water, closing the distance in seconds. The reindeer dives and fights, but there's no escaping the bear's relentless pursuit. With one final explosive lunge, the bear sinks its claws into the reindeer before it can even reach the water. A brutal battle erupts, but the reindeer is no match for the bear's sheer strength. The struggle is short-lived. The bear claims its prize and settles in for a hard-earned meal. However, polar bears aren't just predators. They're also incredibly strategic. Take the unnerving possibility of a polar bear hunting an orca. If a single bear managed to bring down one of these ocean giants, weighing up to 6 tons, it would be a massive treat. However, this makes you wonder, how does a single polar bear take down such a massive meal? The answer is strategy. Polar bears are not just relentless, they are cunning. They've developed a chilling survival technique, creating larders. After a successful hunt, the bear hides its prey under the snow, stashing it away to protect it for later. This behavior has been observed only 19 times, but each instance raises unsettling questions. Once buried, the carcass becomes nearly impossible for other predators to find, a near impenetrable secret in the white vastness of the Arctic. If the bear can't finish the meal in one go, it doesn't stop. It buries the prize again and again, hiding it from prying eyes, using whatever it can: dry grass, seaweed, or even patches of earth. There's a dark brilliance in this behavior, a testament to the bear's resourcefulness and adaptability. The possibility of orcas entering the polar bear's diet could shake the Arctic to its core. These massive predators, brimming with calories, would offer polar bears a rare, high-reward meal, if they can pull it off. However, it makes you wonder how polar bears, masters of the ice, tackle such a formidable adversary. Polar bears have weathered change for over 52,000 years, evolving from brown bears in a world that was constantly shifting. However, the rapid warming of the Arctic is unlike anything they've faced before.
Oh my God! Look at this run! Oh! Oh my God! Holy shit!
The ice is retreating, their hunting grounds vanishing, and the pressure is mounting. The question now isn't just how they'll survive, but how far they'll go to do so. As the ice melts, polar bears are being forced into new, dangerous territory. With their traditional seal hunts shrinking, they've become ruthless scavengers, devouring the carcasses of whales and other large marine mammals washed ashore. They're priceless meals packed with fat, essential for survival in the freezing Arctic. Sadly, this isn't enough. In a world where every meal counts, these apex predators are adapting quickly. This is where the orcas come in. These ocean giants, packed with fat and muscle, present an opportunity too good to ignore. However, hunting an orca isn't just risky. It's an intense battle for life and death. Orcas do not go down easy. The bear must be prepared to face a brutal fight where one wrong move could spell disaster. If the polar bear succeeds, though, it claims a massive reward, an unparalleled food source that could fuel its survival in an Arctic that's growing increasingly hostile. For years, scientists have watched in horror as polar bears' once stable world has disintegrated beneath them. Melting ice, disappearing seals, and rising temperatures have left them scrambling. However, a new study out of the Chukchi Sea offers a shocking twist. Polar bears are finding ways to survive in this rapidly changing environment. The polar bear population in this region is thriving. In the heart of the Arctic, around 3,000 polar bears are thriving, feasting on an abundance of seals. These resilient predators are holding their ground, proving they still have the power to endure. Don't get too comfortable, though. The danger is never far. While this population is doing well, the broader picture is grim. Across the Arctic, many polar bears are struggling to survive as their habitat melts away beneath their paws. The fight for survival is far from over. Yet, amid the chaos, there's a glimmer of hope, proof that these creatures can adapt and keep going. When it comes to tracking these elusive giants, scientists are taking it to the next level with Glitter, a seemingly odd yet genius twist. In shared zoo enclosures, identifying which bear left which droppings is a challenge. So scientists sprinkle a tiny amount of harmless glitter in the bear's food. As it passes through their system, it marks their waste. It's simple, fast, and effective. A high-tech solution for tracking these super predators without ever touching them. As researchers make strides in understanding polar bears, they also face the challenge of studying the Arctic's other apex predator, the orca. Both animals are formidable in their own right, each a master of survival in one of the harshest environments on Earth. In the icy waters, the orca reigns supreme, sleek, black and white, and built for speed. These oceanic predators can tear through the water at over 30 knots, making them one of the fastest animals in the sea. They're swift, deadly, and always on the hunt, a relentless force of nature that commands respect. Meanwhile, on the frozen tundra, the polar bear is a titan. A true king of the Arctic, these giant ice bears rule the endless snowfields with an iron paw. Weighing anywhere from 770 to a staggering 2,200 pounds, the weight of a small car, they're an intimidating force. No predator dares challenge them. Their thick white fur isn't just for show, it's a built-in survival suit insulating them from bone-chilling cold. As they age, their fur even turns yellow, a mark of their wisdom and time spent mastering the brutal environment. Beneath the fur, their black skin soaks up the scarce sunlight, keeping them warm in temperatures that would freeze most to their core. On top of that, their fur isn't just thick, it's hollow, trapping heat like a natural insulator, making them the ultimate Arctic survivors. When it comes to orcas, it's not just about brute force, it's about calculated, ruthless teamwork. These predators are a well-oiled killing machine. Their synchronized hunts a terrifying display of strategy and precision. They don't just chase down prey, they herd schools of fish into deadly traps, and when they target seals or even whales, it's a coordinated assault. The ocean is their battleground, and they move through it with unmatched speed and intelligence, using the water itself as a weapon. Fast, lethal, and relentless, orcas dominate the seas with an almost supernatural command. However, when it comes to land, it's a different story. The mighty ice bear is the undisputed ruler on land. Polar bears don't need teamwork. They are ruthless, lone predators, relying on raw strength and instinct to survive. Their greatest weapon is a sense of smell so sharp, it can detect seals buried deep under layers of ice miles away. Their massive paws can crush through the thickest frozen surfaces with terrifying force, breaking through to claim their prey. While orcas may dominate the ocean with speed and strategy, on land, the polar bear is an unstoppable force. With sheer power and primal instincts, it rules the frozen wilderness, a predator like no other. In the brutal clash between these titans, the danger is absolute. The orca is an apex killer in the water, slicing through the sea with deadly precision, outpacing and outsmarting anything it hunts. It's a hunter that strikes fast and leaves nothing alive in its wake. Once these monsters step onto solid ground, though, the battle shifts. The polar bear, massive, brutal, and relentless, becomes the true king of the Arctic. Its raw strength and savage ferocity make it the most dangerous creature on the frozen tundra. However, nature's cruelty doesn't stop there. Orcas don't just rule the Arctic. These lethal creatures range from the icy depths of Antarctica to the blistering heat of tropical seas. From the eastern North Pacific to the coasts of California and Russia, these apex predators are unstoppable, adapting and conquering every environment they enter. They're not just roaming the seas, they're ruling them, hunting everything in their path from fish to seals and even the largest of whales. Their speed is unmatched, their strategy lethal, and their hunger relentless. However, in the Arctic, there is a different kind of power at play. Polar bears, the titans of the ice, are just as deadly. These giants rule the shifting sea ice, navigating treacherous, cracking flows like seasoned warriors, relentless in their pursuit of prey. When summer arrives and the ice begins to vanish, they don't falter, they adapt, retreating to the year-round ice with one purpose: survival. Every move, every step, is a testament to their raw power and determination. These maritime bears don't just survive in the harshest conditions, they thrive. From Canada to Alaska, Russia to Greenland, polar bears are the undisputed kings of the Arctic. With a crushing strength and an unyielding will, they dominate the frozen landscape, their survival instincts sharp and deadly. Their ability to track and hunt seals across miles of ice makes them the most formidable predator on land. On the other hand, orcas tear through the ocean, striking with brutal efficiency, taking down anything in their path. However, what makes orcas stand out isn't just their hunger. It's their insane hunting tactics. They move as one, a lethal pack, each member playing its part with surgical precision. The water ripples with their speed as they close in on their prey. The seals never see it coming. These underwater predators strike like shadows, silently, swiftly, and with terrifying force. The orca's strategy is flawless, their jaws snapping shut on anything that dares venture too close to the ice. These are not just animals, they're cunning masterminds, each move a calculated, ruthless assault on survival. Their teamwork is so tight, it's like the ocean itself is working for them. There's no escape when the orcas set their sights on you. However, the polar bears aren't about to let anyone take the crown. These solitary hunters are no less formidable. In the harsh, unforgiving Arctic, the polar bear's cold eyes scan the horizon, every muscle coiled in readiness. Stealth is their weapon, and they stalk with the patience of legends, slipping through the snow, their giant paws leaving no trace. They know the ice, they know the seals, and they know the deadly game they're playing. With every step, they close the gap between themselves and their prey, creeping closer with eerie quiet. One wrong move and a massive paw smashes through the snow, locking onto the seal with terrifying precision. Now, orcas live in tight-knit pods, groups of 3 to 50, usually led by females, showing unmatched social cohesion in the wild. They move like a coordinated ballet, trapping seals and even taking down larger marine mammals with speed and power. Their hunting game is totally unrivaled. However, what happens when these two apex predators meet? On one side, the polar bear is a lone hunter on ice, master of seal hunting and scavenging anything it can grab. On the other, the killer whale is a sea-bound mastermind that rules the ocean with speed, teamwork, and sheer force. It's not just about size, it's about who can adapt best to their turf. In the ultimate showdown, the water tilts the odds in the orca's favor, giving them a decisive edge. Polar bears might rule the ice, but when it comes to the ocean, they're more like land animals in over their heads. Sure, these mighty creatures can swim, and they're great at paddling through cold waters, but they just can't compete with the sheer power and speed of a killer whale. Orcas, sleek and agile, slice through the sea with the precision of a fighter jet, while a polar bear, no matter how strong, isn't built for that kind of environment. When polar bears do hunt whales, they usually catch them in vulnerable moments. Maybe the whale is stranded or weakened, giving the bear a rare opportunity to pounce. However, in an all-out battle in the water, a healthy, fast whale is simply too much for a polar bear to handle. It's a chase the bear can't win, no matter how much force it brings to the fight. Forget huge whales, polar bears even avoid squaring up against walruses in the ocean. They're a force to be reckoned with. Walruses are monstrous, up to 2,000 pounds of raw power, with tusks that can grow up to 3 feet long. A single strike from those tusks can tear a bear to shreds. No matter how tough the polar bear is, there's too much risk in a fight with a walrus that's standing its ground. So the polar bear plays it smart. It's an opportunist, always looking for the easiest prey like seals. They're small, fast, and easy to catch. No tusks, no risk. Why go for a walrus when there's a safer meal just a breath away? However, the game changes when a walrus is isolated or sick. That's when the polar bear shifts gears, eyes locked in on the vulnerable target. It's now or never. A young or weakened walrus with no tusks and no herd to protect it is a perfect opportunity. That's when the predator makes its move, fast and furious. However, the walrus isn't helpless. If a polar bear dares to approach, the walrus is ready to defend itself. Tusks out, claws flashing, and a herd that will rush in at the first sign of danger. If the bear isn't quick on its feet, it's game over. There's no backing out of a fight with a herd of angry walruses closing in. The bear knows that even if it takes down a weakened walrus, it could still lose its life in the process. In the Arctic, every decision counts, and a single misstep could mean no second chances. That's why the polar bear plays it strategically. It waits for the right moment, when the walrus is weak, and makes its move in a flash. Because in the Arctic, the difference between life and death is split-second timing. So if a polar bear is cautious about taking on a walrus, it'll be downright terrified at the thought of facing an orca. They're a whole different level of danger, far more lethal than any tusked mammal. The killer whale has a clear advantage in this fight. Sleek, powerful, and built for speed, the killer whale is built for one thing: total domination. This is its turf. With every flick of its powerful tail, the orca moves with terrifying grace and precision that makes it an unstoppable force in the water. The polar bear, though a beast of immense power on land, is a fool to challenge the orca in its element. The polar bear might think it's tough, with claws that can shred through ice and a bite that can crack bones. It might try to reach out and swat at the orca, desperate to land a hit, but that's just a panicked last-ditch effort. It's not a fight, it's survival mode. The orca is too fast, too agile, and too deadly. With its sleek, hydrodynamic body built for the water, it dances circles around the bear, too quick, too calculated. The polar bear, despite its strength, is out of its depth, literally and figuratively. However, despite the orca's unstoppable power, it does not even bother with polar bears. Killer whales have a crystal-clear strategy. They hunt seals, fish, and even massive marine mammals like whales, the easy, familiar prey they know best. Polar bears do not even make it onto the radar. They're not actively sought out. The orca's massive power could easily take down a bear if they ever crossed paths. But the orca doesn't need to go after a polar bear. It's a strategic predator, focused on what it knows will get results. So, when it comes to the ultimate high-stakes showdown, the polar bear is outclassed in the water. The orca, with its unmatched size, speed, and hunting precision, holds its place as the true apex predator of the Arctic. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.